Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create the watercolor technique. Now what you're going to need is some black, and I'm using Primo today. You can use any brand of clay you want, but I'm using Primo. You're going to want black and you're going to want white, and you're also going to need translucent, but we'll get to that later on. Now I'm just going to cut out a square from each of these colours, which saves waste, or well, it prevents waste. And then you'll just pick these up and you want to pop them on top of each other, just like this. I'll just clean up the tile over here. Okay, then you'll just pick this up off the tile, and now you're going to run this through on your pasta machine on the thickest setting, which is a 7 in my case, like that. Now you want to lengthen this out, so I'm going to take this down 2 more settings to my number 5, and I'm going to be lengthening it like that. Take it down 2 more settings to my number 3, and I'm lengthening it out. So here we are. Now the white needs to be the top bit. Then you're going to need to choose some paints. So I've got Dazzling Metallics from Deco Art, Ice Blue, got Teal, I'll show it to you that way around, Peacock Pearl, Crystal Green, and Silver. Wait, no, White Pearl. Okay, so those are the paints that I'm going to be using today. So when you're using these paints, you want to give them a good shake up before you use them, to make sure that all of those metallic particles in your paint are all mixed up together. And once you've done that, what I like to do is I like to just pop a little bit down on my tile, and then I'll take my brush and I like to do streaks, just like this. Small, large, they can contain a lot of paint, they can be a little bit of paint, but I like to do this over and over again. Now, Ludmila has a great tutorial on this, and this is where I actually learned this technique, so I'm going to provide a link to that in the links below for you to go check out, so I'm sure you'll find it interesting. Okay. So now you need a wet wipe to clean up your paint, and you can use a cloth as well. Basically, you're going to need to clean off your brush between paints and just wipe up any excess that you might have had. Okay. Now I'm going to move on. So that was the ice blue. I'm going to move on to the teal now. And now, because I'm doing thin strokes, most of this will be dry by the time you move on to the next colour, but even if it isn't, that's fine. So aim for the white bits first, and then if you accidentally cross over the blue, that's fine. So this is going to come out looking quite interesting. So I'd carry on doing this for all of my colours. Okay, so we're just about done. Now what you want to do, since you put all the colours on and it's all overlapped, what you need to do is you want to just gently lift this up and just clean off any bits that might be in the way. So you'll clean off your work surface, and while you're doing that, this will start drying. So you want your paint to be fully dry by the time before you put your translucent over the top, because otherwise it's going to cause problems. So that's almost clean. That's about fine. So this is almost dry. Now what you can do while you're waiting for it to dry is you can also go and get some additives. Maybe you want to put some mica powders on, maybe you want to put some silver leaf on, or any metal leaf really. That's perfectly fine. You can add in any additives you want, but I want to keep it like this. Now when it's dry, you want to bring over a piece of translucent, as thin as you can possibly get it. Now if you look at my tutorial, my tip video really, on how to use your pastel machine without getting ripples in your clay, you'll find out how to make your clay this thin, without it rippling, that is. And now what you'll do, this can be a little tricky, you'll apply your translucent to your sheet. Now I've got a little crack there. Okay, and now we've got some open areas, so I'm just going to take a bit of that translucent and apply it over here. Okay, so that's what you want to do. You also are going to now need to push out any air bubbles. So you can see that some areas are clearer than others. That's because they've been pressed down properly. So before you push out any air bubbles, you need to trim up your translucent, and this will just make the process easier. Whoops. And I'm using Primo translucent, if you were wondering. And so now I'm just going to push out the air bubbles. And this is important because when your clay bakes, if you've got any air bubbles trapped, they will arise and cause bubbles in your bead. And so that is not what you want. So I pushed out most of them. Now I'm going to bring over my roller and see if I can get rid of all of them. Just rolling up and down, up and down. So you want to be very vigorous with this. You have to get out all the air bubbles. And if you have any that are trapped, just take your knife, slit the area, smooth over. And that should get rid of the air bubble. Okay, so we've basically got rid of all of them. I'm just going to take this over to my pastel machine now, and I'm going to give it one final roll through. Then we can get onto the fun bit. Oops. I got stuck there. Okay, so I'm going to run it through on my thickest setting, and I'm going to be lengthening it. So I'm going to be running it through from the short end to another short end, not from a wide end to a wide end. Okay, then I'm going to take it down to my number 5 and roll it through. Then I'm going to take it down to my number 3 and roll through, lengthening it each time. So that's what we have right now. Now I'm just going to clean up my work surface and I'll be back. Okay, so now comes the fun bit. You're going to tear this. Well, before you tear it, you want to trim it up a bit. So you'll just trim off these edges and pop that into your scrap pile, where it will get used in a different project. There we go. Okay, now comes the fun bit. You're going to just tear it like this, and the more scraggly the edges, the better. So you want to rip it. This is one of those times where you're allowed to rip your clay, where other times usually you're trying to avoid it. So it's quite fun. You almost want to be pulling at it so that you get this really wonky edge. And the wonkier it is, the funner it will look. Okay, so we're just about done ripping that sheet up, and so you can see that it doesn't have to be in any particular manner. You can mix up these pieces so that you don't know where on earth they fitted in the sheet. That is really the point. Now what you want to do is you want to start piecing them together. So I'll start from over here where you can see me, and you'll overlap them like scales. It doesn't matter in any way, you don't have to overlap them in any specific manner. You just want to overlap them. Just like that. And so you can see this is a really fun, stress-free technique that works no matter what you do, really. It's not as strict as some of the other techniques that you can get. And once you've rolled this out, you'll see how fun it is. And so by overlapping them like this, you're going to expose the black and the white that's underneath this painted area, which will give it some lines. Just like that. So I'll carry on doing that, and I'll come back when I've got a full sheet. Okay, so I'm just about done forming a sheet. So I'm just going to pick that up and show you what it looks like on the bottom side as well. Looks like that. And that's what it looks like on the top side. So you could leave it like this without flattening it out, and it would create a really interesting effect as a bead, but in this technique we need to flatten it out. So I'll bring over my roller and just start flattening. And you want to go in a circular motion, so you can see that I'm going not in one direction like this, I'm going round. And what this does is it prevents distortion. So this is already almost flat, but each of the things are separate, and this is because of the colours that we used. So the black and the white stripes helps keep it looking like this is actually raised. But if I run my finger over, or my fingers over this, you can see that it's flat. So it's like a mica shift, really. Well, it achieves the same effect that a mica shift would. So I'm going to just lift it up so that's flat. So now I'm going to run it through my pasta machine on my thickest setting. Like that. I'm going to go down 2 more settings to my number 5, run it through. Going to go down 2 more settings to my number 3. And there we are. So now this is even. So this is basically what it looks like. I'm going to bring it up for you to see it better. Yeah, and maybe make it a bit brighter. There you go. There. So that's what it looks like. It's a watercolor technique, and this is the same technique that I showed in the bead that I showed in my translucent silver leaf Moku Megane video that you guys were all asking for. So this is the opposite side of the bead, and I'll just bring over the bead. Okay, so here are the beads, and let me just move them to one hand so you can see them better. And these are the ones that I showed in a previous tutorial where I showed this side of the bead, which was my translucent silver leaf Moku Megane tutorial, and I'll include that in the links below if you're interested in looking. But the technique that we did today was on this side and this side of the bead, which is the watercolor technique that I showed just over here. So these are the beads that go with this. And so if you like this tutorial, please do check the links below, as there'll be links to more tutorials like this one. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.